Hello, welcome to another episode of the podcast Encrypted Minds. My name is Edwin Karlas of Level Up Sales Consultancy. We optimize the commercial processes for entrepreneurs in high tech, SaaS, and maybe also in biotech. Because I have Isaac Foster on my podcast today. Isaac, I'm very pleased that you want to attend my podcast. You have such interesting stories to tell. Can you please introduce yourself to the people who don't know you yet?
Edwin, thank you so much for having me. I'm actually really excited to be speaking with you today. Um, I'm Isaac Foster. I'm the CEO of Front Range Pharmaceuticals. We are a very innovative US-based biotech company that is taking advantage of several changes in the American legislative landscape over the past, call it 6 to 7 years, which is for the first time enabling the development of pharmaceuticals or complex pharmaceuticals from active ingredients harvested from the cannabis plant. And interesting, cannabis, what most people don't know, is actually non-toxic, right? There is no known lethal dose of naturally derived cannabinoids. And in terms of making effective medicines, they don't work in the traditional sense, meaning you can't take the cannabis plant, find one active ingredient, isolate it, synthesize it, and turn that into a successful drug. It's theoretical, but it hasn't actually been done. And really, what's interesting is because of the entourage effect of the actives in the plant, you need to do something a little different. And what's exciting is in 2023, FDA did introduce a robust pathway to taking actives from the cannabis plant into prescription drug status, and doing so as sort of a raw ingredient as opposed to having to make it an isolated or synthesized.
This is quite interesting. But this is about the non-toxicity of cannabis
Yes,
and the medical purposes for what you can do with it. But you
yes,
also mentioned legislation. So as you know, I am from the Netherlands. We have some experience with legislations around cannabis.
yes, yes,
Can you tell me
yes.
something about why you decided to start this company? What triggers you also to investigate the possibilities?
So many years ago, back in the 90s, I was an investment banker. Working in New York, working on Wall Street, and focused on tech and biotech, right? Those were the two sectors that my career was in. And on the biotech side, I focused on drug development. And so I learned a lot from a banker's perspective, not an operator, on how the capital markets work around drugs. And I mean, we have a pretty established sort of what I'll call conveyor belt. So you have universities that are the primary discoverers of technology. When something's promising, it'll then be licensed into an entity. VCs will then fund that entity and get it through, its preclinical trials. And then once you think you really have something, you start the FDA process, right? And, obviously there's a lot of failure and attrition along the way, but it's a fairly stable, well-known, well-defined conveyor belt. And so I understood that from being a banker. I was then also working in tech when the internet hit, which is relevant because I missed it, right? And meaning that, I was doing deals and I thought the internet was a blip, right? I didn't think that it was going to be what it is today. And that kind of stuck with me. It's like, hey, I should have paid more attention. So I left Wall Street in the early 2000s, and I was recruited as a CFO to a telecom startup, and that began a career of 20 plus years of being in the C-suite of startup companies, right? So as an operator, as a raiser of capital, when I saw first of all, the states here in the United States introducing state legal recreational marijuana, industries, I was shocked. I thought for certain, oh, this isn't going to end well. They're going to be SWAT raids. They're going to shut it down, but
And
they
why?
didn't. Sorry.
Why? Why was that?
Just because of the federal stance on cannabis,
Okay.
right? Because this was started in 2013, right? We still had a very war on drug administration. And I was surprised that they were lenient to the states. And then, Colorado and Washington State were first, and then you had more and more states. And obviously before that, you had many medical programs, right? But the federal government had taken a very passive stance on true medical use. And then the thought was, are they going to really allow recreational? And, so now we have more than half the states, I think, have legal cannabis of one type or another for recreational use.
That is
And
going quite fast. May I ask, in
yes,
retrospective, were you
yeah,
biased also about cannabis because of the
very,
war on drugs? Yeah?
yes. Well, yes and no. So I grew up in New York City, right, in the 70s and 80s. And I was exposed at a very early age or in high school to, there's a book called The Emperor Wears No Clothes, right? And this was written by a gentleman by the name of Jack Herer. And what it is it's a body of research published as a book that details with references, like every statement in that book is referenced in excruciating detail, the actual history of cannabis, right, which was a ubiquitous plant used by everybody that came from the old world, not the new world. Tobacco is from the new world, right? So smoking in Europe prior to the Americas was not tobacco because they didn't have tobacco, right? When you then also start to understand the scale, the conquest of the Americas by ships, right? Ships with canvas sails, right? Canvas is cannabis. Anytime in historical readings you're hearing about canvas, the material, it's made from cannabis. That's why it's called canvas, right? BV. These are in many languages, very, very similar. Canvas. And so not only were the sails made from it, all the ropes, the clothing of the sailors, and in fact, each one of those ships that came over to the Americas needed 60,000 ton of cannabis per year for its sails because the sails wear out, for its ropes because the ropes wear out, for its clothing because the clothing wears out.
Yes.
If you start multiplying how many ships were in the Spanish fleet, the English fleet, right, the Dutch fleet, right, and you start calculating 60,000 ton times all of them, and then how many acres is that? What you will find is that the land mass dedicated to the cultivation of cannabis in Europe was enormous, right? It was, and part of why America was settled was to grow more cannabis,
Oh,
right?
really?
Yes, when the taxes to the British in the beginning, we paid in cannabis, right? And
But
because
things
who did we
changed.
sell it to, right?
Yeah.
How do you couldn't sell it to the natives, and you couldn't make enough money selling it to yourselves. So taxes were in goods, right? And we were shipping cannabis back to Europe, right? That's how ubiquitous it was.
Yes.
Fast forward to about 100 years ago, and for commercial, not health reasons, for commercial reasons, began the whole building of this story, right? The story about how cannabis is evil and people who consume it. And they did it in some really interesting ways. The word marijuana, right, didn't exist before. Everybody knew it as hemp,
Yes.
right? Because that's just what it was. Now, that doesn't mean because it was hemp that it didn't get them high. It did, and we know that because you have samples and you can see these were high THC versions. This was not some other thing. It's a very diverse crop, so you can do all sorts of different things with it.
So you were telling about the we know about
So
hemp?
if we go back to the origin of the word marijuana,
Yes.
right? Because the way it is in the US now is so cannabis sativa L. That is the Latin name of the plant. And it actually encompasses all varieties, right? There is no botanical difference, no actual sort of core difference between the varieties that we call hemp and the varieties we call marijuana, except that of all the active ingredients, there's a difference in the measurement of THC, right? And so what happened in the past, there was no such distinction. There was just hemp, right? And you could make ropes from hemp and you could smoke hemp. And that's why there was the vernacular of smoking rope, right? Right. It wasn't actually smoking the rope of the plant, because the rope that you make, because you can't actually get high from that. And that's not actually something you would smoke, but the flower of the plant is the smokable part. And
Yes.
so when people, they're referring, or weed, why do they call it weed? They call it weed because it grows like a weed. It proliferates like a weed. It's something that if you don't want to grow on your property, it's incredibly difficult to get rid of, right? So if you think of the origins of America, we're shipping back hemp to the crown, right? All of the founding fathers, and this is part of this in that book, The Emperor Wears No Clothes. Different than The Emperor's New Clothes, which is a children's fable, The Emperor Wears No Clothes is really the stripping bare of the fiction that has been propagated in the last 100 years about cannabis. And where I keep trying to go is marijuana is not the Mexican word for cannabis, right? That's what we're constantly told. Oh, marijuana, that was the Mexican word for weed. No, the word is la mota, right? Which that's the word for weed. Marijuana was in fact a variety of tobacco, right? And so they took this name and applied xenophobia about all the Mexicans coming into the United
Yes.
States and how they're bringing this dangerous drug, which at the same time, and this is also documented, almost every single medicine cabinet in the United States had something called hemp syrup in it. It was like an all-purpose tool. Like,
Yeah.
you got a cold, take some hemp syrup.
So,
You got
so
some pain,
when did
yes.
it change? Because it was
It changed about 100 years ago, and
because they did
there were
everything with it.
four primary drivers behind it, and this is also something that he lays out in the book. First, you had Hearst, right? Hearst was the paper magnate.
Yes.
Sort of the equivalent of the Washington Post, the National Enquirer, all wrapped up into one incredibly wealthy person. His papers were made from wood fibers, whereas all the other papers at the time were made from hemp, right? Because that was what you made paper from. His paper was different. It was special. What he was able to do then with his wealth and his power was, I'm already got all the communication distributions. I'm already selling newspapers. How about I go into the paper business, right? And so he was one of the people that used his power and position to remove an ingredient that was his competitor, right? You also had J.P. Morgan, the financier at the time, just because power was about creating monopolies. And then you tie that to Rockefeller, who at the time was beginning Rockefeller medicine, which is the system used today,
Yes.
right? Now, and this is going to sound fantastical, the discovery of petroleum was one of the key game changers in the trajectory of cannabis. That sounds crazy. Why? So when we say petroleum is dinosaurs, we don't mean that it's the animals. We mean it's the period, right?
Yes.
So petroleum is in fact a very old, very large plant extract, because what it is all the plants from that period got caught and then degraded and released all their chemicals in a long natural process. And so when they found the petroleum, they realized that this is the plant find of all time, right? Because we were making medicines from plants. And so they figured out, wait, if this stuff has everything in it from all of the plants for millions of years, I don't have to grow things anymore. I just have to get them out of this. And if I own this, you can't compete with me because you can't grow it. And so you now had this opportunity to, and I'm going to say this with good intention, right? Back at that time, you had a lot of snake oil, right? Because people could put anything in a bottle and sell it to you on the side of the road and tell you what it was good for.
Yes.
So what Rockefeller wanted to do was have a real system, right? Based on the scientific method. And we're going to research and do this. And somewhere in that process, the proprietary position of the petroleum versus agriculture swayed commerce in a way to make sure that you had a, vertically integrated structure.
So what you're saying is that back then, 100 years ago, that the big names, the industrial giants like Hirsch, J.P. Morgan, and Rockefeller had shared stakes in this thing,
Correct.
push out the hemp business,
Yes.
and to focus entirely on newspaper made from root and petroleum as a base ingredient of
For medicine.
For medicine, yeah.
And then there were other factors going on, right? So we were starting America, right? What is the textile from America that was new? Cotton.
Cotton, yes.
Right? Why was America able to, so everything was hemp before then, right? Cotton evolved here. And the only way that cotton could evolve, because the challenge to using it at scale is it's very laborious, or it was at the time, right? Because you needed to it's a little stubby thorned plant, and you need to pull the little puffs off.
Yes.
Right? American slavery, right? This huge enslaved labor population was able to now make something economically viable that had not been before. And like you, I probably prefer wearing cotton to hemp today as it is, right? Because it's of all the characteristics of cotton, right? And so you also had that industry with tremendous investment trying to have a unique export for the world, right? And its competition was hemp. So, you start to have all these forces pushing at the same time, and that's what happened.
That is interesting, but this was all business logic, although they were creating a monopoly, which is wrong. But on a certain moment, it was criminalized.
Yes. That was a process that happened then and really culminated in the 70s. But it all had the same sort of commercial push behind it,
Okay,
right?
all right.
As it continued.
Sounds perverse.
Sorry?
It sounds perverse.
So, and again, this is not my research. So please do not listen to me, Isaac Foster. Get the book, right? The Emperor Wears No Clothes. On the back of it, you'll see a statement that says, if you can disprove any fact in this book, anything, if you can go get evidence, here's my lawyer's address.
Yeah.
There's $100,000. This was back in the 80s. There's $100,000 in escrow, right? You bring definitive proof, he'll give you the money. That anything I said in here is not true, because everything that he says in there is referenced. A lot of it is coming from the Library of Congress, right? Because we have records, right? We have records of George Washington growing cannabis, right, at one of his farms, and we have his notes about things about it. You can't hide this stuff.
Yeah, this is very interesting. So on a certain moment, the tipping point, it was criminalized, and we abandoned hemp production. But then it came back. Fast forward to your decision to create your companies based on cannabis. You need to overcome your bias first.
Well, part of why I didn't have the same bias was because I grew up with that book.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I understand.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was a book. It was published in the 80s. I was in a very science focused high school, and so just from a science perspective, it got widely circulated. Now, we were in New York, and at that time, a lot of teenagers consumed cannabis regularly, and so did a large population of my high school, right? And so this only fueled our indignation, and at the same time, MTV, right, had their whole programs where they're very dramatic, where this is they hold an egg, this is your brain, and they put the egg down, and then they take the frying pan and they smash it and they show you this is your brain on drugs, right? So we got all that, but then as I started getting into the science and especially research around the brain, things that would blow people's minds is that consuming cannabis actually stimulates the production of brain cells. In fact, when you consume cannabis, your brain is flooded with new brain cells. In addition to that, it increases the neuroplasticity in your brain. And so you can arrange new information quicker. So think about this. You're getting all these new blood
Yeah.
cells. Your brain's loosening up so that you can learn new things. This is completely different.
Yeah, this is completely different. May I ask, do you have an escrow account with $100,000?
I don't,
All
but
right,
he
to protect
does.
his
But
references.
he does.
Oh, he does. Okay.
He does. It's still
Yeah.
there. So, like I said, don't argue with me. Argue with him.
Okay.
He'll give you $100,000 for it.
But
I'm going to tell you it's a waste of time.
this is a complete paradigm shift. If people are going to understand how this works and how it can be beneficial for
Correct.
your health.
Well, here's the other thing, and this is, I didn't know this, right? So what do these drugs interact with in your body, right? It's a system. It's a system called the endocannabinoid system, right? Endo, because it's endogenous, it's inside of you. And it's called cannabinoid because we actually knew about the phytocannabinoids, the plant-based ones, before we knew about the endogenous ones. And so, whereas normally you're calling something in nature based on what you find in your body, in this case, it's the other way around, just because we discovered the active ingredients first before we discovered the system, right? So the endocannabinoid system is the largest collection of neurotransmitters in your body. Let that sink in for a minute. The largest collection of neurotransmitters. What do neurotransmitters do? They message.
Yes.
Right? It's a messaging system. It's a messaging system. And it's concentrated in your brain, your central, and your nervous system, right? Sorry, your immune system. Every single white blood cell has a receptor for cannabinoids. Every one of your white blood cells is coordinated and directed by your endocannabinoid system, because what the system does, the only thing that it does, it is the master regulator of your body. It coordinates all of your organs, right? So when you need blood in your thumb, it is the endocannabinoid system that says to the lungs, hey, breathe a little harder. We need a little more oxygen in here. It's what says to the blood cells, take in the oxygen. And then it's what says to the local area, oxygen you need is in the blood system, take it out, right? The way I like to think of it is, and I'll ask you this question. You're traveling, you come home, come back, and your house is, let's say it's too hot, right? If you live in the United States, we have air conditioners, right? And so when you come home and your house is too hot, the first thing you do is you go to your thermostat, right? You don't automatically go assume that you need a better air conditioner or you need your first assumption is my thermostat's off.
Yes.
Right? And so if you come into your house and it's 100 degrees Fahrenheit and you're sweating, you go to the thermostat and you see that the thermostat is not on, you're not going to call the heater guy. So easy. And you're going to turn it on.
Yes.
Right? Now, if you get there to the wall and you find out the thermostat is gone, right? It's been ripped out of the wall. It's missing. Again, the first thing you're going to do is deal with the thermostat. You're not even going to think there's a problem with the equipment because you're going to know I got no thermostat.
Yes.
Right? Now, in America, that thermostat is running two systems, heating and cooling. Your endocannabinoid system is running at least a dozen systems simultaneously. Right? So when you're sick and one of your 12 systems is not working, the first thing you should check, I think you would agree, is the thermostat.
Yeah.
Right? And when it's a thermostat that's so complex, the second thing you would check is it working correctly?
Yes.
Cannabinoids are what work on the endocannabinoid system to modulate it. It's the tool that we have, one, to boost its potency, two, to direct its efforts
Yes.
in specific things. And those two things in combination are what make cannabis such a powerful drug, right? Because the same thing, if I come to your house and it's too hot and your thermostat is missing and I come in and I replace your thermostat, it's going to get cool. But I didn't touch your heater. I didn't touch your air conditioner. I didn't need to. And this is why we see the dramatic medical impact of marijuana and cannabis, and why it's been such a topic for so long is because it restores the thermostat. And once the thermostat is working properly, it does all sorts of things,
Yes.
right? And we proved this thesis in our first drug, in our first human trials. We've completed 2 human trials on a proprietary drug made from active ingredients from cannabis on long COVID, right? Long COVID is a brand new disease. We didn't even know it existed until 2020. By 2022, we had already developed and tested a drug in humans because our thesis was you see 200 different symptoms in these patients post-viral infection, right? All sorts of things, especially things like POTS, where they have dysregulation between their breathing, their blood, and their balance, right? All these things all happen together. Classic non-coordination, classic thermostat is missing symptoms.
No, this
And
is true actually, because I know from already from my youth is that some people who are experiencing some diseases, chronic diseases, chronic muscle diseases, are using cannabis from coffee shops, so illegally, also to help themselves. And now it makes sense because it's neurological. This is what it improves. So those people, those patients, were actually benefiting from it. Although it was
yes,
not on a subscription base, they did
that's
them.
right.
It was self-medication.
Yes,
So you changed this entire thing to more formalized medicines based on cannabis.
correct,
So you
correct.
back from you were an investment banker. You saw the potential. You were surprised about all these states changing legislation. So you saw an opportunity.
Yes.
But you're not a doctor. But you did
No.
start. Did start
Well,
a biotech company.
sure.
Where did you start? How do you start as an investment banker and life sciences or
Well,
biotech company?
so I was a managing director at a boutique life science investment bank in New York City, and I focused on drug development, right? So I didn't know how to develop a drug, but I knew how to finance one. I
Yes.
knew how to sell one, and I knew what you needed to do to keep moving down the value chain, right? I'm not the scientist in our company, right? I'm the business guy. And I thought I understood enough to go into the industry, how it works.
Yes.
And then I started in cannabis actually on the recreational side because I didn't believe there was any medical use. I thought, great cover story. People like to drink alcohol. People like to get high, right? We're in America. I did realize that there was very little negative impacts. Like we don't have people dying every year from smoking cannabis, right? But you have people dying every year from from drinking alcohol, right? Every year we have fatalities. We have every year fatalities from Tylenol. We have every year fatalities from alcohol. And yet we have never, ever, ever in the recorded history of man had one fatality from cannabis. That statement right there should get people's attention. What do
Yes.
you mean? What do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean? No, I hear it all the time. They're drug addicts. It's like not one recorded death, not one autopsy anywhere says cause of death, complications from use of cannabis. Not one says death from fatal interactions between cannabis and another drug. These things have never happened.
So
And
you have
so,
your history, the background, the scientific backing of the huge benefits of cannabis,
yes.
but you're still fighting fighting a lot of bias to people who are thinking, yeah, this is a
Um,
drug. So
yes and no.
is it changing? Is it changing?
That isn't really our battle.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is I think that the pharmaceutical industry recognizes that there is potential for therapeutics developed from the plant. Right? I don't think that that's a question. I think the challenge is, and what gets me excited, is that we tend to come to new problems with the old solution. And so we often are very married to this is the way it's done. And when I say, why do you do it that way? You don't say just because it's the way we've always done. You give me the reasons why it's been done. And that makes you feel comfortable, right? So very simple example. The traditional path to getting a new drug approved at FDA takes 15 to 20 years and $1 billion, right? But in the traditional path, you are starting with something with an unknown toxicity that is assumed, because it always does, to have a toxicity.
Because of the new molecules that are being created.
because it's a new molecule.
Yes.
By definition, when you go to FDA, this is a new molecule that has never been seen in a human being, studied in a human being, taken by a human being. Would you like to try it?
But in this
No.
case, it's completely different.
This is a 180 phase shift in drug development.
So
And
you're
this is
facing
also
regulations. You're facing certain
we don't have
process.
any regulatory. No, we don't have it. We have no regulatory hurdles at all.
No, I mean, actually, if the FDA says there's a certain process to do your clinical trials, it is not a fit for your business because you're not developing new molecules, existing molecules.
Oh, but that's why FDA has a different path.
Okay.
Right? This path is called the botanical drug path. Right? Because so you're not claiming a novel single molecule. You're claiming a complex mixture that you can't even tell anybody everything that's in it. Right? But you have that complex mixture where you can't tell anybody what's in it that has a long history of safe use. Right? And observed medical benefit. And what that means is, like what we've done, when we go to FDA, we have already studied our drug in human beings with the disease we want to treat because we're allowed to. Right? So we can first collect human data and then go to FDA, as opposed to never have this in a human being. And the first time that it's going into humans is at FDA. Now, what this impacts is not going to be immediately obvious. Because of the difference in the safety, the cost of one of these trials is literally 2% of the normal cost.
It sounds as a huge benefit, but it is still 20 million.
You can't say that in biotech. You literally can't say that. You can't say 20 million in biotech is a burp, literally, right? It's a burp because you're going after billion-dollar markets with a proprietary position.
You know,
and if 20 million is something that keeps you out of biotech, you're not in biotech, because most people in biotech are making billion-dollar bets. And what I can do for you for $1 billion is let you make 50 bets as opposed to one. And we only make our bets after we prove it in humans. So the FDA experience is not an experiment. It's not an experiment for us. We've already done it all because we're allowed to. When we go to FDA, we're just doing it within it's like taking your driver's test, right? You have to know how to drive before you take the driver's test, right?
I understand. So, Isaac, tell me.
Yes.
I've been talking to a lot of people from the pharmaceutical industry, a couple of them, incredibly smart guys.
Yes.
And they said, well, they explained to me how it's need to be financed, and that you're doing a proof of concept that takes years and years to prove your idea, to create new molecules. But they're constantly using the biggest thing they need is funding. We need to talk to venture capitalists. And that's a hard thing if you make promises that can maybe work in 10 years from now.
Well, so in biotech, it's not a promise. So typically what you do, so most people, the first thing, and especially today, and we're talking about AI, right? So the first thing you do is you create an AI model of a human, right? And then you take molecules and you throw that at the AI model, right? And because it's all AI, you can do millions at a time, right? You can do, what about this? What about this? What about this? What, until you get something that lights up in the AI model, says this looks like a good fit, right? So now you have a molecule, right? You have all of its definition, and you can hire a company to make it for you, right? To synthesize a small batch, right? Not manufacturing, a small batch. And now you can take a cell culture, right, in a petri dish, and you can have a cancer cell, whatever it is you want to see if it works on, and you can drop it in, and you can see if it works in the petri dish. And let's say the AI model is right, voila, it works in the petri dish, you're excited. The next thing you got to do is you got to get some small animals, right? And so you got to show that you know, it works, and you didn't kill too many of them, right? And then you also need to do studies to show how it gets into the blood of human beings, so that now you can start to have a fixation and something to measure to see how lethal it is, right? Those are the data packages that you go to FDA with.
Yes.
Right? those things. So I had a nice AI model. It worked in my petri dish, and I got it to work in some mice. And so I'd like to study this drug in human beings. The FDA says yes. That means you have an approved IND, investigational new drug application, and you can start a phase 1. Right now, in your phase 1, you're going into healthy humans, and so they're going to have very significant monitoring, right? Like, so let's say this is something that is expected to impact the kidney. Every one of your trial people is going to have lots and lots and lots of tests that you're paying for to monitor their kidney, right? You're going to pay for a lot because you're putting a human being in a dangerous situation, right? You're putting them basically in a jet plane that nobody has ever flown before, and you hope won't crash, and you're going to monitor them. So as soon as it gets dangerous, you're going to land the plane. This is a very expensive process. This is the normal process. This is every other drug that you've ever heard of. You're describing its process. Ours is very different, right? We never touched an AI model. What we do is, well, we do use AI, but for a different reason. We mine all of the research that's been done in cannabis for the past 30, 40, 50 years. And from that mining, we're able to come up with a concept of a formulation. Instead of throwing that into an AI model, we find a sick person that has it, what we want to treat, right? And so we try it in a human being. And why can we do that? Because it's non-toxic, right? Because we can't kill them.
So
we don't, yes.
I'm sorry for interrupting. So you are putting things upside down with no clinical trials.
Completely upside down.
Completely upside down.
We start with the result and then do the trial, as opposed to starting the trial to find the result.
So you must have a very comfortable life as an entrepreneur in this space, because you can.
No.
Everything goes well.
Yes, but and this is the irony of it.
Okay.
Right? How long has you and I have spent 2 hours-ish talking, and you came to the conversation with an open mind. It's taken me 2 hours to explain to you this and for you to get it. When I go to traditional people in the industry, literally the first thing they ask me is, where are your mouse studies? And when I say we don't have them because we don't need them, lights go out. The conversation is over.
How is that possible?
Over.
Why?
Because they only know what I shared with you. Think about how many billions of dollars have poured through the first example, right? How many people, their careers have been made on that way? How many people's careers are today into that idea? When I come to you and I say to you, you don't have to, now I'm not saying you don't have to do it for anything, I'm saying for these things, right? That's another thing. People say, oh, the whole thing. No. Just, this is a special use case. Here's why the special use case exists, and here's what it means. And they say, I don't believe you.
But they're also not an open mind, because they are being held back because of the current, the status quo, actually.
Correct.
This is quite interesting from the industry I am in. I'm a sales consultant. I'm a sales consultant.
Yes.
So what I like to do is have meetings to listen to customer prospects to see what the problem is and to solve those issues. But if you take the classical approach, you have marketing, who is going to approach, you have a message. Then if they find something that's somebody is interested, you harvest that lead, it transitions to sales. But now with the use of AI, those things can be combined. But if you talk to classic organizations, most of the market sales organizations say, no, please don't do it. Because maybe, and I'm surprised, because you can do things much faster than it used to be. But I think it is similarity to your example, because you are hurting the status quo.
So I don't think it's because you're hurting something. Elon Musk talks about this a lot, and he talks about first principles thinking, right? Because prior to him starting a car company, prior to him starting a space company, and he talks about this. If I went to somebody and said, I'm going to do rockets, their immediate answer is, you can't do that. It's too expensive. Look what it takes the United States government to do it. How could you possibly do it for less? And his answer is, you got to stop and readdress the problem from scratch, right? the way you've been doing it is irrelevant. What's the problem, right? And when you go back to first principles thinking, which is getting down to the basic core building blocks that you've ignored, you can see that if you stick to the old system, you have the wrong answer because you miss some key things. And I'll give you a great, for math people, right? If I show you the number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, you know what that is, right? And you can do an equation. But let's say I show you A, B, C, and D. Now, because we didn't get down to what does A, B, C, and D mean, you ran with your assumption on what A means, right? And you ran with your assumption on what B means, and you ran with your assumption on C. And so when I show you my math and my equation, you tell me it's wrong, right? My math isn't wrong. What's broken is you and I have not agreed on what A is, or what B is, or what C is. And first principles thinking, which is, Elon is like, the guru of this.
Yeah, I see.
It's throwing that all away and asking the question fresh, right? That's why he's able to launch a car company without dealerships, without anything that everybody would have told you is impossible. That's why he's able to make electric cars that people said were possible. That's why he's able to launch thousands and thousands and thousands of satellites into space that everybody said was impossible, because he did not do it within the existing framework because he didn't have to. He was able to take advantage of things that changed since that first framework was made, that is ignored because we have built building where it is, and we get to build one in a different place with all new rules.
This is a very interesting, this is a very good comparison. So it's also for my business, also for your business, because you take the first principle completely different. Although you're still dependent on the guys who do the math wrong.
Indeed, but see, I just need here's how we're going to break through, right? We're in the process of getting our first IND, so a first approved investigational new drug. That is the sort of the ticket that you need to get into later stage capital. That's the ticket that you need to get access to the public markets. And we have great relationships with people there, and they say, I like you and I believe in you, but we can't start due diligence until you have that document. Right? And so we're in that process, right? I kind of like to think I like children's stories. The little red hen, right? If you know it, right? She wants to make bread and nobody wants to help her, so she just does it. When the bread's there and you can smell it, it doesn't matter. I didn't think you could make the bread, right? Because now you have the bread, right? And we said we can make the bread, and he said, nah, I don't think you can make the bread, but here's the bread. And then when I have my IND and I'm saying, oh, it's going to cost me $20 million to get all the way to FDA approval, and it's a guy who usually spends $1 billion. The day he doesn't believe me because FDA didn't say it, when I have the document that says this is what it's going to take, he'll believe me because it's issued from the government.
Yeah, I see what you mean. And all of a sudden, if you are there, then everybody takes granted that you have thousands of satellites in our space and can have internet from all over the place because Elon Musk made it possible. And all of a sudden, it's the new normal. It's the new status quo.
Correct.
And you're pushing your company now to do that ceiling.
Yes.
And as soon as you're there, in a couple of years, everybody will say,
status quo.
this is a new status quo. This is how we should work. So this can also mean a disruption about all these approvals from the FDA. Because
so to be clear, you still need the other FDA process. You still need novel molecules, right? Because in our example, all I can fix is your thermostat, right? Yeah. Once I fix your thermostat from the 12 different things, and it's a problem at the heater, I can't help you with that.
No.
Right? No. Now you need to have a mechanic come in, right? And you need to have a surgery, or you need to have a drug, right? A traditional drug. But at least the thermostat's working.
Yes.
Right? And so it won't be like the thermostat's down and you spent all the money to fix the heater, but you still have the problem, and you spent all the money to fix the air conditioner, but you still have the problem. But just fixing the thermostat doesn't mean everything's fixed. But not fixing the thermostat means you can't fix the other things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's,
And so we are not replacing the entire thing.
no.
We are one more tool. And often people will say to me, "Oh, pharma's not going to like you." I'm like, "Why not?" And they're like, "Well, because no, you don't understand what pharma does. Pharma needs products, right? Pharma is the distribution model. They are the method that drugs get distributed. They're the ones who have the relationships with the doctors. That on and on and on. That's why companies like ours, we develop drugs and partner with pharma, right? We're just another SKU for them.
Yeah. So,
One that helps,
yeah.
one that can help with their other drugs, and one that can help with patient outcomes.
So that makes sense. So you're part of the ecosystem. So,
We're part of the ecosystem.
yeah,
All we're doing is taking what is now a outside of the ecosystem body of work, translating it into repeatable, proven, FDA approved drugs, so that then now doctors don't have to like become an expert in what is smoking pot,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. All right. But yeah, so if you're, it's not because of your enthusiasm. I think it is contagious. Huh?
Hope so.
It is, at least for me. So explain to me, from an investment banker, you are already understand the process because you understand the process also to get funding. Can you share something about your experience as an entrepreneur? So what makes you happy?
Um,
What motivates you?
so that's a great question. I'm gonna put it this way. So again, I grew up in New York, and this is a famous story from I think Carnegie Hall. They had a very famous ballet school, right? In the building, right? This is a world famous ballet school, and I remember this is a mythology in New York. So a young dancer comes up to her teacher. Is like, this is kind of nice, but like, how do you know if this is what you're gonna do with your life? And she leans forward. If you have to ask, you don't know, right? So if you're asking, am I an entrepreneur? You're not. If the only thing you can do in your life is be an entrepreneur, you are. And that means on the good days, on the bad days, it doesn't matter. It's who you are,
Yes.
right?
Can you train
And
this?
so, sorry.
Can you train this?
So just like the ballerina can train
Yes.
and has to train, but whether or not you're a ballerina is determined first
Yeah. Yeah. I see what you mean. So you can be
inside of you,
yeah. Yeah.
right?
You are the ballerina.
Inside of you.
Yeah.
You are. And now you do the hard work
Yeah.
to become that.
So the ballerina in the Carnegie Hall, and if she is improving herself on a certain moment, everybody's applauding, and this is her motivation.
Her
What is
motivation is the craft because it's who she is,
yes. All right.
right?
That's what I mean. But
Or they
it makes her
or like
happy. Let me say a
it,
successful performance makes her happy.
I don't know that ballerinas are happy a lot,
Okay. Yeah. You're not a
right?
ballerina? No?
I'm not, but I'm just saying I think if you when you talk to people in the arts, right? They are not more happy than another person and on a consistent basis, right? They have higher highs and lower lows, right? Just like you have highs and lows in your business, they have highs and lows in their business,
Yeah.
and it's just what they do.
Now, what are your highs from your as an entrepreneur in the bioscience, the life sciences? What are your highs?
So usually my most exciting moment is after we get funded to start something that we've been pitching for a long time, because I like execution, right? I like operations. I like the doing. I love the planning. I love all that. To me, that's all the doing. Having to tell 100 people the same thing to get one person to say yes to something that I already absolutely believed in my first conversation, that's the hard work.
Yes.
When you can go do what you know you can do. For example, we said we could go do a drug for long COVID. People laughed at us. We've completed 2 human trials, right, that were successful. And there's not even a candidate in the new chemical entity yet. They've spent $1.5 billion looking for a target system and molecule to take through an FDA process. They got nothing. Well, it doesn't pay my bills yet, But from an accomplishment standpoint, to go from a new disease being announced to developing a drug to successfully treating it in 2 years, this has never happened before in biotech history. And it's so fast, it's like people don't believe it. It's like going to a race, and the race starts and everybody's still out on the track and you're already back and you're done. And people are like, why are you in the garage? It's like, because I already did all the laps. No, you didn't. It's like, the telemetry says that I did.
Yeah.
You must have been going at light speed. Yeah, it says that. And hell, if you slow down the film, you can see us doing it.
Yeah.
But
So
there, it takes that time.
yeah, it takes time, but also you're talking about highs and from your industry. It is like no pun intended, but you're in high. But
Yeah,
I can also
let's have the.
imagine that people suffering from long COVID and they are improving. That is a motivation in itself. Your
Well,
patient.
so helping patients. Right, so there's two goals of developing drugs: reducing costs, right? Because if you're sick, you have costs, and if I don't help you, your costs are just going to go like this.
Yes.
So my first goal is to reduce your costs, and the other goal is for me to improve your outcome. So I want to make you better for less. That's the goal.
Yes.
That's it. That's all there is.
Yeah.
What's frustrating here for me, and perhaps keeps my focus in the wrong places, and I appreciate the questions. I take for granted that we help people because that's what we do. That's normal. That's our everyday. Like every day we give our product to somebody and it's a game changer for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so that's my normal day. What's frustrating is that we already do and I reduce their costs. So I significantly improve their outcomes, significantly reduce their costs. And I do that all the time. And then when I show the data to other people, they say, no, you don't. That's where my frustration is. Most people are frustrated trying to help people. We do that naturally. It's communicating that to people who don't believe it. That's our hard part. Usually, and I make this joke all the time, usually the CEO of a preclinical biotech company, the reason why they don't lose sleep if they're funded is because they're worried about the phone call where they say, rabbit died and your program's dead, right? It's done. It's finished, right? Or you get into your phase 1 and you see we're killing people much faster than we're helping them, and you have to abandon the trial, right? Those are the things they worry about. I'm not worried about the trial at all.
No, you can't wait.
I can't wait. But the same people who have no problem putting money into the super risky, super expensive thing, when I talk to them, because of first principles thinking, all they can tell me is, you can't do that. And then when I show them what we've already done, they say, you didn't do that. Like, we're published in a medical journal. Would you like the data? We'll give it to you. You can do your own analysis. Oh, yeah, but I already know.
That sounds weird to me. So we spoke and you said you have an open mind. I'm just curious about what you are doing. But imagine that you're also part of a venture capitalist and you come to them and you show them the data. All of a certain moment, there was also that the opportunity is clear to people. Wait a minute. He's not only helping people, he's speed running the clinical trials, and I'm gonna make a lot of money investing in these guys. Sounds super simple.
It is. It is. Though in fairness, and I'll close with this example because it's one of my favorites. The reason why I missed the internet as a tech investment banker
Yes.
in telecom, right? I'm sympathetic. I was them.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm there, I'm sitting there, I'm banking hardware, right? I'm banking companies that are consultant companies that install hardware into large corporations with very profitable contracts, right? And balance sheets. And then some kid comes in and says, I'm going to do a webcam, right? It's like, no, you're not. You don't understand, kid. Let me tell you what it takes to have a call like we're having right now. Let me tell you all the equipment you need. That's a $2 million expense. I'm going to do it for $20. No, you're not. You're never going to be able to do it for $20. Never, never, no matter what. Can you see where I'm going?
Yes, I perfectly see where you're going. Yeah.
And I missed it.
Yeah.
I was the smart guy. I was supposed to see it. I was supposed to catch it. I was supposed to see the obvious opportunity, and I missed it. So I'm very sympathetic, because what I'm saying is, yes, right now in your world, it costs you $2 million to have a video conference. We figured out how you can do it for $20, and I can put it on your desk right now, right? Just let me do it. That's where we are. And so there'll be the person that says, you know what? Let's give it a shot.
Yes.
And then the whole world changes overnight. And that's, I feel like I'm paying a little bit for that moment. And so, to be clear, I turned down Google as an investment banker.
Oh, all right. This is an example. This is one.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I get it. When people pass on us, I'm like,
you
just had your Google moment and you don't know it yet, but you did. I know what it's like. It's painful.
It's painful. Yeah. All right. So may I ask, Isaac, so if you compare yourself to the former Isaac as an investment banker turning down Google, what advice would you give people that are thinking about starting a biotech company? What advice would you give them?
Well, are they doing it the way we're doing it, or are they doing it the old way?
Yeah, that we don't know. People are listening to this story.
My advice would be, don't do it the old way.
Don't do the old way.
Don't do it the old way, because the new way, it's kind of like, remember your 2400 baud modem?
Yes, yes.
Don't develop another 2400 baud modem. We don't need another one. We don't need you to do the work on it. Yours might be prettier. It doesn't matter. I've got a gig to my desk right now, right? You want to get my attention? Give me 10 gig to my desk. I don't know what I need it for, but I'll at least listen to you.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So this is
I guess to any entrepreneur, and again, we're going to give this to Elon, never, ever forget first principles thinking. Whatever you're doing, scrub it down. Make sure, right? Don't assume anything. You must define everything in the equation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what he does.
Yeah, that's what he
makes him brilliant.
And he's brilliant. So we can learn a lot of things from him. We can also learn a lot of things from you in this industry. Isaac, I really enjoy this conversation. And there's so many stories. And like your metaphors, I like your storytelling and your enthusiasm. Yeah, amazing. So I will suggest to keep in touch. And if you have...
That would be great.
Yes. And if you have taken the other hurdle, we do the podcast all over again. We have a new episode.
There'll be more.
Yeah, even more. Thanks again for attending, Isaac. I really appreciated it. And so much things to learn and to enjoy from this conversation. So we keep in touch. And
Sounds great, Edwin. Thank you so much.
I wish you all the best, Isaac. See you soon.
See you as well.
So, bye.